Okay, so welcome to week 4 of our Python tutorials. So by the end of this lesson, we should be able to use conditional statements, loop through objects, and then control these loops. So we will start with conditional statements. As always, try to code with me. And if you need to pause and rewind the video, feel free to do that. So first of all, we're going to look at the if, we're going to look at the else statement, or should I say elif, and then the else statement. So the if statement, this is designed to trigger some piece of code if something happens. So for example, I could say age equals 18, and if age is greater than 18, do something. So I can print you are an adult legally. Okay. If age is greater than 18. So this hasn't printed anything because age is equal to 18. If I make it greater than or equal to 18, so now it prints you are an adult. So this is the if statement. You have some condition, and if that condition is satisfied, then you do something. In this case, we're printing. So this is a simple if statement. To extend this, we use what is known as the if-else statement. So here we will have two options. If some condition, do this. Otherwise, do that. So let's say temperature equals 15. So if temperature, say, is greater than 20, we can print it is warm outside. Else, we print it is cold outside. So if I run this, because temperature was 15, it has printed it is cold outside. I could set this to 25. Now it prints it is warm outside. So you will notice two things. The if and the else, they're on one level of indentation. Everything that comes after the if has been indented inwards. Same with the else, has been indented inwards. And you'll see we have this colon at the end of each sort of control statement. So we say if some condition is met, then we have a colon. And then on the next line, this next line would be indented where you put in all the stuff you have to do. So it prints, it is warm outside, print, I'm going to put a new line, print, it is warm outside, print, I like it like that. I like it like that. close. Yeah, it is warm outside. I like it like that. So everything else in this indented block will trigger if this condition of is met. Else, print it is cold outside. Uh, Print il fait froid, something like that. I think that's how it goes. And let me go back down to 15 or 12 degrees. It is cold outside. Um, so everything in this indented block comes after the else. Okay. So this is only two levels. If this, then do that. So we can extend this to as many levels as we need using the if, which is short for else statement. So here, again, let's start with the score. Um, Somebody took an exam and scored 65. So if the score is greater than or equal to 70, print grade is A. Well done. Else if score is greater than or equal to 60, print grade B. If score, oh, that's a, okay, I haven't closed the, yeah. If score is greater than or equal to 40, print grade C. Close that. Close the quote. Else print grade is F. Okay, so now we have as many branches as we need. So here, let's start with 75. Well, 65. Yeah, let's leave it like this. If I run this, it has printed my grade as B. So it checks this, doesn't meet that condition. It checks this, it meets this condition. So it prints grade B. If I brought it down to 35, it doesn't meet this condition. It doesn't meet the second condition. It doesn't meet the third condition. Else, everything else, every other condition, grade F. You know, if I made this a 0, still print grade F. If I made this an 80, now it will satisfy the first condition and print grade A. So this is the if, elif, else statement. And the elif lets you have as many conditions as you want. And of course, there will be sometimes more efficient ways to do this. But for now, this is a good way of learning about this statement. This is a very useful statement. Okay, next. the nested if statement. So here we're going to have an if statement inside another if statement. And you can have any of these control loops inside other control loops. So for example, here we're going to try to find out if a number is even or odd. So we say num equals 10, and we say if our number is greater than 0. So we want, well, I'll finish typing this and then I'll talk through it. So if num is greater than 0, and then again, another if num modulo 2, so that um, checks if the number is divisible by 2 with 0 remainder. So num modulo 2 will give you the remainder. And if the number modulo 2 remainder is 0, then it is an even number. So if the remainder is 0, we print positive even number. Else print positive odd number. So if I run this, it will print positive even number. If I put in 11, positive odd number because the remainder is not 0. So here we have nested an if-else control loop inside this first if. And we can try to do this. Let's type in else negative number. So positive odd number. I put in 50. That's a positive even number. If I put in minus 50, negative number. So we've nested this if else inside the larger if else. So you can really start to add different levels of control through your code. Okay. So this is the if statement. Very simple, very useful. If, else if, or elif, and then else. Very useful commands. So now we will look at loops. The most common loop is a for loop. So a for loop is really useful for looping through things. So here's an example. If we want to loop through a range, so for I in range 5, print I. So it's going to print let us look at what range is. I have to put it in a list first. List range 5. So this is what range 5. If you just type in range 5, it will return a range object. It's telling you we're going from 0 to just less than 5, default in steps of one. Um, and so what this is going to do is going to really, it's going to go through this, which is essentially this. So it will go through 0 and print 0. It will go through the next one and print the next one. Go through the next one and print the next one. Go through the next one and print the next one up to the end of the range. So that is what the for, this is one of the things the for loop is useful for. You can loop through a list. Loop through a list. So let's say fruit, apple, banana, cherry. So this is a list of some fruit, and we want to loop through this list and print every item in this list. So how we would do this is you use the for, and we can call this anything. Let me change this to list of fruit. So for fruit in list of fruit, my colon, print fruit. So it's going to look through this list. Um, it will check the first one and do something with that. Then it will check the second one and do something with that. Here we're just printing. Then it will check the third one and do something with that. So if we run this, apple, banana, cherry. So this is what the for is for. It's for going through something and doing something with each item. Here it was going through a range, which was this. Here it's going through this list, and it's printing every item in that list. Okay. So we can loop with a range. Loop with a range. And our range, if you recall, you can specify the starting point, you can specify the stopping point, and you can specify the steps, the step size. So here, let's say we want to, for I in range, we'll start from 2, stop at 10, and go in steps of 2. Obviously, this stopping point is exclusive. And we can print, let's just print I. So it's printing 2, 4, 6, and 8 because it moved in steps of 2. Oops. So this is looping through a range. You know, we could have done print I minus 1 and it will go, go get 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Go to 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. Go to 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. Go to 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. Okay. So we can also loop through a string. So for letter this is a string, Python. In the string Python, we're going to print the letter. So it goes through every item in this and it's doing something. Print P, print Y, and so on until it has printed all the letters in that string. So this is the for loop, also very useful loop. Another really useful loop is the while loop. So the basic while loop, basic while loop. Here, let's initialize a value. Let's call it count. The count is 0. So while count is less than 5, print count, and then we add 1 to count. So count plus equals 1. So plus equals 1 is the same thing as saying count equals count plus 1. That's the same thing as saying count equals count plus 1. As an aside, if you saw count minus equals 1, that's the same thing as saying count equals count minus 1. So we're updating the value of that variable by 1. Okay. So I'm going to run this. So while the condition has not been satisfied, we will do something. Then we will increment the count. So let me modify this a little bit. So count equals 0 while count equals 5. Hold on. I will say while count equals print condition not satisfied, and I will print the current count. I will say current count Okay, so we start, the count is 0. So because the count is less than 5, we will print the condition is not being satisfied, and it will tell us the current count after we've updated it. Maybe I should call this updated count. Here's what I will do. Copy this here. Let's put this here. The current count, condition not satisfied. updated count. So it's currently 0. Condition has not been satisfied. We've incremented and printed the incremented count. So that's 1. So the next time, the next go around, the current count will be 1. Condition has not been satisfied. We increment the count by 1. So now it's 2. And we do this for 3, for 4. And when we get to count 5, the loop terminates because this condition has been satisfied. So condition has been satisfied, and that is the end. So this is the while loop. Um, Quick thing about loops, sometimes you might get stuck in an infinite loop, so you should be careful. If you find out that you've been looping and looping and looping and your program isn't running, it could be somehow this condition. Here it's a simple condition, but something more complicated. Maybe the condition hasn't been satisfied and your program is running without terminating. So you should be aware of that. Okay. So this is let's move on here. Another example. So let's say our number is 1 while the number is less than or equal to 10, put that colon. Let's print our number and let us update this number to the value times 2. So the number was 1. It is less than 10. We print the number 1. We multiply it by 2. So now it's 2. So the number is 2 now. It has been updated here. It checks the loop again. 2 is still less than 10. It prints the number. Then it multiplies that by 2. So now it's 4. So it goes again. And then now it's 8. And then 8 times 2 is 16. And because 16 is not less than or equal to 10, it stops the loop. Okay. So this is an example of looping. We can have more control over this looping instead of just waiting for the full, instead of waiting until the termination condition is reached. Um, we can have control statements, loop control statements. So here, the first one we will look at is break. So break, this exits the loop. So let's say for I in range 10, put the colon. Let's start with print I. Print I. So this is going to print from 0 to 9. Okay, but if at some point we wanted to terminate this, if we met a condition, we would have the break keyword in there. So we say, let's say I want to terminate if it reaches 5. So for I in range 10, if I equals 5, I will break. So if I run this now, so ordinarily it would have run all the way from 0 to 9, but as soon as I get to 5, it checks this, I is equal to 5, when I reaches 5, and it stops the loop. So that's the break statement. We have exited this loop. Similar to this, we have the control, the continue statement. So for I in range 5, let's do this. Let's print I. Okay, so we know again this is going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop before 5. And now let's see what the continue statement does. So we'll say if I equals 2. So if I equals 2, let's continue. And what continue does, it skips what comes after it until the next iteration. So continue will skip to the next iteration. So it has skipped this condition and it has continued on to the next iteration. So if for certain conditions you don't want something to happen, you use the continue statement. And you can have the else with loops. Else with loops. So for I in range 3, colon, we're going to print I, and else print loop finished. So this will execute when the loop completes normally. So after the loop has completed normally, so 0, 1, 2, then it will move on to this and execute this else statement. Okay, so let's look at some examples now. Let's go with example 1. Example 1, here we're going to use for and if. We've seen this before, but say we have some numbers. Let's go list range. We're going to start from 1 and we're going to go to 11 in steps of 1. So what is this? This is just a list of numbers. So instead of me typing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I've used my list range. Start, stop, exclusive, in steps of. Okay. So I have a list of numbers here, and I'm going to try to find the even numbers. So I will say for num in numbers, if num modulo 2 equals 0, that is the if the remainder of that number is 0, we are going to print our number is even. Okay, so it has gone through the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it checks each number. If that number, if divided by 2 leaves 0 remainder, then that number is even. Okay, so example 2. Example, we're going to sum up some numbers. So let's say the total is 0. Say for I in range 1, 6. We're going to increment the total. Total plus equals I, and finally, after all the addition, we are going to print our total. We say sum is total. So this is again going from 1 to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It starts off with 0. Again, if you are interested, you can do this print current total. If you want to see the total, you can modify this to print current total and see how the the the, the total sum is changing. Okay, so I will leave that to you. But it goes from 0. Um, it's currently 0. Then I is 1, so it adds 1 to that. Then it next iteration it adds 2 to the previous one. Then it adds 3 to the previous 2 plus 1, and then you get 15. Okay, so this third example, um, example 3, we are going to use the while, we're going to use if else, and we're going to use break. So here we're going to make a password checker. So password, our password is, let's call it Python 123, and let's put in a max number of attempts. So attempts equals our current attempt is 0, so we haven't started trying yet, and the max number of attempts is 3, like you would get. So what we want to do is we want the user to be able to input the password, and then if the password is correct, we grant them access. If the password is wrong, we will notify them that the password is wrong. And then if they have put in more than 3 attempts, or 3 attempts, if they have more than 3 attempts where the password was wrong, we shut them out and notify them, too many attempts. So while attempts is less than max attempts, we will get input from the user. So user input equals input, enter password. So if user input matches our password, which is Python 123, if the user input matches our password, we are going to print access granted, welcome. And then we are going to break. So we're going to stop the loop. Okay, we don't need to continue. Else, so if the user input was not equal to the password, we increment the number of attempts. So attempts plus equals 1. Okay, and then we can print wrong password. Wrong password. And then we can tell them how many attempts they have left. Max attempts minus the current number of attempts left. And we have our else loop. So if at some point we've had too many attempts, we can print too many failed attempts. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to enter a password. I'm going to call this cat. Wrong password. 2 attempts left. Fish. Wrong password. 1 attempt left. Beetle. Wrong password. 0 attempts left. This while loop terminates, and then else. It goes to else. Too many failed attempts. Okay. So I'm going to run this again and type in Python 123 access granted. So this is our password checker. We have used all these control statements that we've seen so far. We used the while, and we used the if, else, and we used the break statement. So we currently have 0 attempts. Max number of attempts is 3. So while the attempts is less than the max number of attempts, we will allow the user to enter a password. If that password is the correct password, access granted, break, that's the end of the program. Else, if the user input is not equal to the password, we say attempts, we increase the number of attempts. So, we've tried, and we'll notify the user that there is a wrong password. Okay, and if all this runs, then it moves to the else and tells us too many failed attempts. Because we were successful, the break broke us out of this while else loop. This is this while else. The break took us out of that. Okay. So, fourth example. Example 4. We're going to create a multiplication table. So we say num equals 5 for I in range. So we're going to go from 1 to, we don't even have to put the 1, 13. So we're going to do our times table. Print f the number times I equals the actual number times I. Okay, so this is our 5 times table. So from 0 to 12, 5 times 0 is 5, 5 times 1 is 10, and then all the way to 5 times 12 equals 60. So here, we are taking in this number, we are multiplying it by, well, we're printing here this number, then we're printing this number, and it is giving us the output, which is this times this. So this is our times table. And then finally, final example, example 5. Example 5, we are going to skip some negative numbers using for, if, and continue. So numbers equals -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. So we want to skip all the negative numbers. So for num in numbers, colon, if current number is less than 0, or we could say if, let's go less than 0. Less than 0, continue, and print processing the number we are on. So it has skipped -2 because it continued to the next iteration. Skip -1, it continued to the next iteration. And then it has started from 0, 1, 2. Okay, so this is the final example, but I just wanted to mention a final example, because I have talked about all these control flows. Less than, we have seen equals, we have seen less than, equals, less than or equal to. The same thing applies with all these other symbols that you can use to compare, greater than or equal to, not equal to. So I will show the example using not equal to. So let's say a equals 10 and B equals 20. So if A is not equal to B, colon, print A and B are not equal, else print A and B are equal. So here A and B are not equal. So, you can use this symbol. So all these symbols that you can use to compare greater than or equal to, not equal to, less than or equal to, they all apply here. Okay, so this is the end of the tutorial. We have some exercises, and I would say have a good attempt at trying to solve them before checking the answers. So for the first one, converts temperatures from Celsius to Fahrenheit from values from 0 to 10 to 100 in steps of 10. So, you will take 10 Celsius, well, 0 Celsius, convert to Fahrenheit using this formula. Once 0 Celsius, 10 Celsius, 20 Celsius, 30 Celsius, 40 Celsius, convert them to Fahrenheit, and then only print if the temperature in Fahrenheit is above 50. For number 2, find and print the divisors of the number 24. So here you will use the modulo operator. So if 24 modulo I equals 0, print I. Find how many times the letter O appears. You can do that with the for loop. Same with this. You will have vowels A, E, I, O, U, and if any of this is A, E, I, O, U, you can count, update a count. So like we saw over here, we initialize a count. If we come across a vowel, we update the count. So that's how you can count. This number 5, fizzbuzz, again, modulo 3, modulo 5. Here, number 6, try to find the maximum number in the list without using the max function. So there are a few ways to do this. Number 7, calculate the total cost of items in a shopping cart. So just loop over all the items and sum them together. If the total is over 100, apply a 10% discount to the total. Number 8, here you're going to load the iris data set and use a loop to count how many flowers have sepal length greater than 6 cm. So to load the iris data set, we will run this command, import seaborn as SNS. Then we will run this iris underscore df equals sns.load dataset iris. So then we can loop through this iris data set, count how many flowers have sepal length greater than 6 cm. So we will use what we learned last week in accessing columns in a data frame. And we will do the same for number 9 and for number 10 again. So based on what we did last week. So this is it for the tutorial. You are now able to understand and use these conditional statements, you're able to loop through objects and you're able to control these loops. So have a go at the examples and the exercises, and I will see you next time.